In a situation of crisis, what is expected to find is a resolver of problems, not an exacerbator of the problem. Mr. President, you are called upon as a father of the nation to solve problems, to bring experience, to bring expertise, to call for calm, not to exacerbate the problem. You should be a resolver of problems, not a man who would increase the problem. Mr. President, your action now, and this is important, the action of Mr. President is now beginning to hurt the people of Rivers State and indeed the nation. Because as at the time, and you should know this, as at the time of the declaration of the state of emergency in Rivers State, there was peace. We don't believe we can say so now with the declaration of Mr. President of the state of emergency. We thank you very much, gentlemen, for the press, for listening the position of the PDP with regards to those two issues. Now, going forward, there's another development. So I'll continue to talk about that. I mentioned two issues, one on the state of emergency, and second one, which is another grave threat to democracy. I'm going to be showing you some documents as we proceed. I'm going to get the event of the last 24 hours in this country prompted an emergency NWCA meeting today, which actually started since yesterday. So we continue the meeting today. And before I proceed, I need to introduce my colleagues that are here with me for this briefing, which is very, very important. To my far left is the National Financial Secretary, Dr. Daniel Winkoro, brand new Category Chairman from the South region, Mr. Ima Ogidi, the National Treasurer of the party, Alhaji Yayari Ahmed. My name is Debo Olugun Agbak. I am saddened to be addressing this because these are issues that goes to the existence of this country as a nation and the unfortunate consequences of the actions of the irresponsible or progressive Congress, particularly in the last 24 hours. Two issues that happened in the last 24 hours that is threatening democracy in this country. One, the ill-conceived, ill-advised, and reckless declaration of state of emergency in the peaceful Rivers State. And secondly, the vengeful, politically motivated action of revocation, so-called revocation of the certificate of occupancy of the People's Democratic Party and two properties in Abuja. Yesterday, as you will recall, we issued a statement, which I must thank you because you assisted in conveying the content of that statement to Nigerians and to the whole world. In that statement, the PDP totally rejected, and we are again reiterating our rejection of the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State. Then the purported suspension of Governor Fubara, as stated yesterday, and again we are re-emphasizing now, cannot stand. It is unconstitutional, it is impracticable, it is invalid, and completely out of the questions, as there's no provision in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, that empowers the president to dismantle a sub-national government or suspend a democratically elected state governor under any situation whatsoever. What President Tinubu attempted to do is to suspend the Constitution of Nigeria, overturn a democratic government, and force an undemocratic regime in Nigeria, and particularly in this case, Rivers State, in gross violation of sections 1 subsection 2, section 14 subsection 2A, section 180, section 217 subsection 2B and C, and section 3052 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. And I want to have this conversation to go step by step on those constitutional provisions that we just read out. Section 1, subsection 2 of the Constitution provides, and I quote, says the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall not be governed, nor shall any person or group of persons take control of the government of Nigeria or any part thereof, except in accordance with the provisions of this Constitution. So whatever happens to the government of this country, it must be in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. The Constitution, throughout the provisions contained therein, does not empower the president to dismantle or attempt to dismantle any tier of government or appoint a sole administrator to take office as state governor or override the duties of the state assembly under any situation. And I want to draw some emphasis here. Even when there is a challenge to a state legislature, there are provisions in this Constitution that empowers the National Assembly to make law for the good governance and peace of that state legislature. Not that the president will say, well, we'll shut you down. He does not have that power. He cannot, and that's why that state of declaration cannot stand. Then section 14.2, which is clear, talks about sovereignty of the people. And I'll read that for emphasis. Section 14, subsection 2A, provides, and I quote, sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, from whom government through this Constitution derives all its powers and authority. What it means is that for you to be in a position of authority in Nigeria, it must be by reason of the authority given to you by the sovereign vote of the people of Nigeria. And that was demonstrated by the election of Governor Fubara as the elected governor of Rivers State, along with his deputy, and of course the House of Assembly as an institution, as an arm of government. The three arms of government are co-equal branch of government. And that's why we talk about having rule of law and order in government. This constitutional sovereignty, as provided for in section 14.2a, is exercisable only by the people through their elected representatives, including state governors and legislators. The president, therefore, no matter how much he may imagine his powers are, under this Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended, has no powers whatsoever to override this sovereignty under any guise, except as provided for in the Constitution. Declaration of a state of emergency, suspension or attempt to suspend a governor of a state, and shutting down the legislative house cannot, and is not part of that power that he has. Section 180 of the Constitution is clear as to the tenure of a state governor. It prescribes a 4-year commencing from the date of swearing in. And that has been established even by the Supreme Court. You recall the case of Governor Obi, in Anambra where it was decided. That's why you have some state now with staggered election. Because it was, and not by suspension by the president or any other person. Section 305, which the president copiously copied, I think ill-advised and basically without due consideration of what the Constitution says. And I'm going to read that for emphasis. The president shall immediately after the publication, transmit copies of the official gazette of the government of the Federation containing the proclamation, including the details of the emergency, to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, each of whom shall forthwith convene or arrange for a meeting of the House of which he is President or Speaker, as the case may be, to consider the situation and decide whether or not to pass a resolution approving the proclamation. I mean, this is so clear. It is not that if the president wakes up in a dream or something comes to him and he says, oh, there's a state of emergency. He can be dreaming and say there's a state of emergency and then declares. No. When there are circumstances, he will, after the publication in the Gazette, he will transmit to those houses because sovereignty belongs to the people, as represented by the elected officials and legislators in the National Assembly with regard to the president. And thereafter, it says this, to consider the situation. It is not that the president will consider the situation. It is for the people, the elected people, that has sovereignty to consider the situation and decide. Not that the president will decide. Because let's say I heard him say he decides. He cannot decide. It is the people that decides. Or not to pass or not to pass. The National Assembly, through the two chambers, will make a determination after those facts are presented by the president. The president violated the Constitution by ordering, and this is serious, that the proclamation of state of emergency in Rivers State should take immediate effect. That sounds like a strange word in a democracy. We're used to that in the military. But we think 26, 27 years of democracy should allow begin to purge us of those kind of comments with immediate effect without the approval of the National Assembly. He cannot do that. That's unconstitutional, ill-advised, and it cannot stand. Then I go to section 217, subsection 2C. It empowers the deployment, and this is key, of in a state of emergency. I'm going to refer to the Constitution in a more copious way here. 217, and it deals with, it says, establishment and composition of the armed forces of the Federation. The very relevant point of it is about deployment in situations such as the president envisaged, which was not in Rivers State at the time of declaration or the purported declaration. One of the things in section C of 2 of section 217 is, and I quote it, it says, empower the deployment of the armed forces to, this is key, suppressing insurrection and acting in, note this, in aid of civil authorities. It says, in aid of civil authorities to restore order when called upon to do so by the president, but subject to such conditions as may be prescribed by an act of National Assembly. Section 217 was violently violated by the president. Subsection 2C, by deploying not in aid of civil authorities, but in dismantling civil authorities. And in this matter, who are the civil authorities in Rivers State? The governor, the deputy governor, and the House of Assembly. Now, assuming without considering that indeed there was some down of law of order, assuming without consent because there was none there. The president is only required under section 217, subsection 2C, to aid the authority to restore order. The civil authority, as I mentioned earlier in Rivers State, there's the governor, deputy, and the assembly. The president cannot, under the constitution, attempt to dismantle civil authority. He is, by the provision of this constitution, expected to aid. He was to aid the sustenance of order and peace in the state, not to use that opportunity on that guise to dismantle those civil authorities, to aid them, not to dismantle them. The PDP calls on the National Assembly, because these are grievous issues of violation of the Constitution by the President. And so the legislative arm of government, they have powers and they need to invoke that power. We are urging them to do so with regard to this constitutional breach. Governor Fubara, under the provisions of the 1999 Constitution, remains the elected governor of Rivers State. The PDP urges the military and other agencies to be on the side of the law and restrict themselves to their constitutional role of defending democratic rule and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended. The PDP will continue to call for calm and stand with the governor of Rivers State, Governor Fubara, and the people of Rivers State at this very trying time, challenging as it were. President Tinubu should note, and this is to him, Mr. President, please note that a president is expected to be a father of the nation. In a situation of crisis, what is expected to find is a resolver of problems, not an exacerbator of the problem. Mr. President, you are called upon as a father of the nation to solve problems, to bring experience, to bring expertise, to call for calm, not to exacerbate the problem. You should be a resolver of problems, not a man who would increase the problem. Mr. President, your action now, and this is important, the action of Mr. President is now beginning to hurt the people of Rivers State and indeed the nation. Because as at the time, and you should know this, as at the time of the declaration of the state of emergency in Rivers State, there was peace. We don't believe we can say so now with the declaration of Mr. President of the state of emergency. We thank you very much, gentlemen, for the press, for listening the position of the PDP with regards to those two issues. Now, going forward, there's another development. So I'll continue to talk about that. I mentioned two issues, one on the state of emergency, and second one, which is another grave threat to democracy. I'm going to be showing you some documents as we proceed. I'm going to get them right now. About the revocation of certificate of occupancies and title document to the properties belonging to the PDP.